Here in the Grosvenor Hotel, I'm going to look at the work of a one-time Newcastle-upon-Tyne blacksmith's son, Gerard Robinson, a master carver in wood, who during the years 1857 to 1863 carved out of solid oak a most outstanding example of Victorian taste, now in the residence lounge, the famous Chevy Chase sideboard. A massive piece of furniture, 12 feet wide, 10 feet high, 4.5 feet deep, representing in 6 panels the tragic story of the Ballad of Chevy Chase. An old law of the border country provided the English and Scots would never hunt in each other's territory without first obtaining permission. Harry Hotspur, son and heir of the Earl of Northumberland, decided to break this law, challenging the authority of his rival, the Earl of Douglas, by hunting his land and woods. Hunting began at dawn on a Monday. Hotspur with his hounds and 1,500 men hunted and harried, chased and killed all through that morning. And by noon, 100 fat hearts had been slain. Hotspur and his men rest from their efforts, and Hotspur finds himself confronted by the mounted Douglas, demanding explanations concerning the slaughtering of deer on his territory. Hotspur, hand on sword, rejects his interrogation, and scene is set for bloody confrontation. Battle began at midday and was not half done when evensong bell was rung. Of Hotspur's 1,500, 53 survived. Douglas's 2,000, 55. Both Hotspur and Douglas slain. The mourners began to arrive on the battlefield, seeking their loved ones, weeping and covering their faces with their cloaks, whilst the priests gave comfort and absolution to the dying. The retainers and servants of the families gather up the dead and carry them back to the Percy and Douglas castles to lie in state and await burial. In these 6 panels carved in oak, Robinson totally captures the atmosphere of border conflict, the magnificent hunting scenes, the anger of Douglas, and the destruction and fury of battle. It is a masterpiece of the woodcarver's art and craft, if not necessarily aesthetically pleasing as a piece of furniture. Abbey Walk. The remains of Shaftesbury's famous abbey lie alongside, founded in 880 by Alfred the Great as a Benedictine community for women with his daughter its first abbess. Here, the memorial altar to King Edward the Boy Martyr, murdered by the orders of his stepmother at Corfe Castle in 978, brought here for burial a year later. I have to journey on once again, down into the district of St. James, once the source of the town's water supply, which in my opinion is just as well, since the old 2 Brewers Inn seem to be very firmly closed. The new open all-day licensing law seems to have had the opposite effect to me. They're never open. And I can't hang about here all day waiting. I've got to move on into open countryside, eventually out of the town, in the direction of Child Oakford, which is my next destination. Child Oakford Memorial Cross stands in the centre of the village, between the inn and the church, and I wander around Child Oakford, sensing its air of prosperity. The houses are well maintained with smart-kept gardens in full bloom, and it's pleasant to stroll its lanes. From here, it's my intention to walk to Hambledon Hill and climb to its summit to visit the Iron Age fort. First, however, I have to walk past the village church of St. Nicholas and carry on into and through the churchyard, climbing over the church wall using the stone steps set into the brickwork for this purpose, over a new-made wooden stile, and finally I'm walking fields at the base of Hambledon Hill. This hill fortification, during 1645, was the site of a skirmish between 2,000 unarmed farmers, labourers and villagers, carrying only sticks, who, exasperated by years of the parliamentary army stealing their crops and livestock without payment, banded together and occupied this summit. Cromwell sent 50 crack dragoons, well armed, equipped and mounted, to deal with them. The result, Cromwell wrote, being no great slaughter, some small execution, I believe killed not 12 of them, but cut very many. On the bank of the River Stour at Shillingstone, between Child Oakford and Blandford. I'm making my way to Beer Marsh Farm, where the farmer's wife, Fiona Idder, has opened a farm shop that specialises in Italian farm products, which she makes from the milk from her husband Gianni's dairy herd. She makes pasta, there's cheese and delicious ice cream. That's been made today, that strawberry,
yes, I've just
hasn't it?
made it with fresh local English strawberries.
Which were all soaking in there when I arrived
Yes,
at
yes.
So let me try some of that, Fiona. Because I had your chocolate and that was glorious.
Well,
And do you reckon that's better?
no, it's completely different. This is a nice fresh tasting ice cream, which is more like a sorbet, and it has no milk in, so it's refreshing.
There's no milk at all?
Nope.
How do you make it then?
So we use fresh English strawberries, which we get from the fruit farms, which are local, and we put in water and sugar, and that's all, nothing else.
Oh, that is lovely. That really is lovely. It is like strawberry. It is just like eating a strawberry.
Well, it's lovely on a hot, sunny day.
You've got all these beautiful ice creams here. Why is it that Italian ice cream is so much better than any product of our own?
Well, I don't think it's any different. I think...
Oh, I think it is.
Well, I think that English ice cream is very nice, but it's much richer. It's made with double cream, and ours is made with just milk with a touch of cream in. So actually you can eat more of it, and there's a lovely creamy taste to it as well.
I'm not going to ask you what gave you the idea of opening an Italian farm shop, because your husband, Johnny,
right.
is Italian. You went to live in Italy.
Sardinia, yes.
And then you came back to what was virtually the family farm
That's
anyway.
right, yes. And now my husband runs it, and he occupies himself with the cows and the milking and everything, and brings me the milk from the farm, and then I turn it all into ice cream.
But it was a very bold venture, wasn't it? Because normally farm shop people come for eggs and they come for fresh milk and butter, but they don't come for Italian products.
Well, I think we're very lucky because we have quite a good area with a lot of second homes around here. We have a lot of people who come down for the weekend, and a lot of wealthy people, and a lot of people who appreciate good food. And most people now, after watching television programmes, know about Italian cooking.
And the pasta is also made here?
Yes, that's right. Yes, we use Italian semolina flour and eggs, and we make it in a pasta machine, and it's made fresh for each weekend.
And as far as I can see, sitting here most of the day while we've been working, the cars stream in and out non-stop.
They do, luckily.
I have a confession to make. When I left the farm shop, I was weighed down with delicious Italian farm produce. I love Italian food, particularly pasta. Never thought I'd be purchasing it in the heart of the Dorset countryside. I don't imagine these Frisians care what's made from their milk, providing they continue living in this rural paradise. And I'm going to continue along the bank of this river, the Stour, all the way into the centre of my next destination, and enjoy every moment of its typical Dorset gentleness. I've enjoyed a lovely walk alongside the River Stour, making my way towards Blandford Forum. You've probably heard of the infamous Blandford Fly, or you've read Thomas Hardy and know it as Shottisford. It's the town, again, another one rebuilt after a disastrous fire, this time in Georgian style, and it's well worth a visit. This really is a most delightful way of journeying across the country, seeking out little-known trackways and footpaths and following them from village to village, town to town. And they're always flourishing with wild growth and alive with the continuous sound of birdsong. I'm heading towards Bryanston Church, standing proud and isolated, overlooking the River Stour, with only a meadow separating it from the water. Ringed around with woods, it's a most picturesque setting. Ahead of me lies the famous Georgian Bridge across the Stour, which is my entry point into the town of Blandford Forum. And a finer way of entering any town would be difficult to imagine, or a more handsome piece of architecture than this bridge. But then, Blandford Forum deserves a bridge of such elegance, for in the whole of southwest England it would be impossible to find a more magnificent Georgian town centre, with the parish church of St. Peter and Paul, like all the other buildings, rebuilt in the classical style after the Great Fire of 1731. It's a town where the arts and crafts can flourish, and none more so than in the work of Felicity Baker, a painter whose delicate and precise brushwork, drawing skill and exquisite colour sense produces handmade screens such as this medieval example.
first thing I ever painted was a spray of flowers that I went out and picked from the garden, and they looked so lovely, and I hadn't got a film in the camera, and I decided to paint them. And I've still got the picture. It obviously has lots of faults, but it really all sort of sprang from there, and the children were starting to grow up, and I had a lot of time really to myself, and so that's how it all started.
Felicity, you may not have had any artistic training, but I think I could hazard a guess what your influences were, and I would have said medieval, Dutch and Italian painting. Would I be right?
Yes. It's very difficult to say which of those has influenced me, because I tend to paint what's needed at the time. So, for instance, this has a classical theme. It's for a classical setting. So, obviously, then I become very attracted to the Italian painters, to the mythology, try to get the Latin right. It would be the same for the medieval idiom and for the Dutch idiom. It's for a specific setting.
The screen is something you obviously like doing because you have a great many of them. Bunches of flowers, cats, dogs. You rather like this idea.
I do. It's a very old idea. They used to be called companion pieces in the old days, and also dummy boards. Very often there used to be a figure, whether they were some sort of burglar deterrent or just for company, I don't know. And you might have a lady brushing her hair, or a maid carrying a pile of sheets, or maybe a minstrel with a lute or something like that. And then a few years ago, we decided to rejuvenate the idea, if that's the right word, revive the idea, by taking it further and having still lifes of fruit and baskets of flowers and dogs, which is how I found myself doing people's own animals.
Talking of preference, Felicity, there is something you would, I don't perhaps mean prefer to do, but something you desperately would like to do, which is illustrate.
Yes, I really would. I've been rejected quite a lot, but it's not stopping me. And also, I feel that as time goes on, I am getting too old, if you like, to clamber around on the floor painting murals. I mean, because it hurts every part of your body, believe me. You don't just get housemaid knee from kneeling, you get everything becomes sore. And painting furniture and distressing it, it's all extremely hard work. And it would be lovely to just sit at my easel, indoors, in my own house, with my own radio, and illustrate things, if not that I've written, that other people have written.
I'm walking up Salisbury Street and I've come here to look at this house across the road. You'll see a tablet up there on the wall that was put there by the citizens of this town in memory of Alfred Stephen. He was born in that house in 1817. He showed exceptional artistic talent as a young man. He went on to study in London, then he went to Italy. He returned to this country to execute many fine works. Probably the most celebrated was the Wellington Monument that you can see in St. Paul's. When Stevens undertook the Wellington Memorial, he realized his lifelong ambition to create a masterpiece of architectural sculpture in England. Standing 30 feet high, the bronze sculpture of the aged Duke lies recumbent in death on his sarcophagus beneath a classical triumphal arch of marble. At each end of his marble canopy are groups in bronze representing truth tearing out the tongue of falsehood and valour trampling cowardice underfoot. The two virtues depicted by superbly modelled female figures and the vices, large male nudes. On its summit stands the equestrian statue of Wellington, the supreme military commander in his prime. The whole being Stephen's finest work, and in my opinion, a sculptural masterpiece. And today, as you can see, Alfred Stephen's birthplace has become a bicycle shop, which is rather convenient for me. Absolutely glorious it's been, cycling through these beech trees. 365 of them there are on each side of the road. And they were planted there by the Bank family, who once owned the whole of the estate here, Kingston Lacey Estate. 9,000 acres they owned, once 14 farms and 2 villages. And they planted these trees, and they knew they were never going to see them in their glory and their full height. But they planted them for another generation, and I'm glad to see the same thing is going on over there.